This is David Diaz, former WBC lightweight champion of the world, and you're listening to The Grueling Truth.
Welcome, everybody, to the Grueling Truth Inside Boxing Weekly Show. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in my co-host, Jeremiah Preisser.
Good evening, everybody. Excited to be here. Always excited to be here. Let's talk some boxing, Mike.
Well, and we got a special guest tonight. Last week, we had John the Iceman Scully to talk about Ward Kovalev. Tonight, we got Brian LaSpada, former NABF Cruiserweight champion. How you doing, Brian?
Good.
All right,
good evening, everybody.
We'll start off with you, Jeremiah. I think we all expected Lomachenko to win the fight and maybe not have that much trouble, but I don't think we had any clue that it would end the way it did.
No, I don't think anybody up and thought Walters would, give his version of no moss. I mean, Walters, he's been in some fairly entertaining scraps, like with Jason Sosa, Nonito Donaire, and he even said before the fight, I'll do whatever it takes to win this bout. Well, we're all proven wrong. And the worst part of it all was that Walters wasn't really getting beaten up. He just couldn't tag Lomachenko. He couldn't do what he wanted to do. He got frustrated, and he just said he didn't want to continue.
Yeah, and Brian, you've been in the ring before. You fought in some high-profile fights for titles. What goes through a fighter's mind when he's in a fight and he knows the guy he's up against might just be a little better? It has to happen to every fighter. There's only 2-3 guys I remember that really retired undefeated.
Well, typically, you know what's going to happen in the fight before the bell even rings because the way you trained. The fight's basically won or lost in the gym most of the time. In this case, I think the guy was just outclassed to the point that he figured he couldn't win. So he said maybe, why take any more shots, take any more punishment? What's the point?
Yeah, so as a boxer, do you understand that point of view, or?
I was always a never quit, never die type of guy, never give up. Try to find a way to pull it out, no matter what.
Yeah, I remember your fight against Nate Miller. That was one of the guttier performances you'll ever see in a title fight.
And yeah, but I seen a post today, matter of fact, with the former heavyweight champion. The guy knocked out Lamont Brewster.
Yeah. He
was saying that he lost his eyesight, or his eyesight's been affected severely.
Yeah.
With that attitude, but now the fans aren't there to help him. He made him happy, but he's got to deal with the consequences. So, is it really worth? He made a good point. Is it really worth? Is it really worth sacrificing your body, or your brain cells, and then you got to deal with it later? Just to make the fans happy. He made a good point there, so
yeah,
I can't really argue with that.
I'll point this to Jeremiah. Jeremiah, you're a fight fan. I don't think, number one, boxing fans really realize these are real people they're watching. And number two, I don't think you can ever question a boxer's courage just even as soon as he gets through the ropes. I think his courage is unquestioned. And I don't think you really know what went on with him, so maybe it's best not to rip him.
I don't know. Maybe it's not. For a lot of us, it depends on why they quit. Quitting just because you're frustrated is a bit different than quitting because you're injured. And so far, I haven't heard any, good excuses from Walters. He just seemed frustrated. He just said there was no reason for him to come out the rest of the fight. That, for me, is a bit like the Durant thing where, it's not like he was getting beat on. Again, there was no discernible injury. So, again, it's tough to judge when you're not inside the ring, of course, but when you're not making the effort and you're when you're in a sport like boxing, which, prides this sort of do-or-die attitude, it's just tough to give Walters a lot of respect after that kind of a pull-out.
Yeah, but I think, Brian, what you said there about a fighter knowing he's not prepared going into the ring, not that was Walters last night, but I think that was Roberto Duran in 1980.
Very well could have been. Yeah, Roberto is known to, party a little bit, put on a lot of weight, have to set the weight off real quick.
Jeremiah's known to do that too, Brian.
Well, yeah, but if you don't got a fight coming up, that's one thing. If you got a fight coming up, you don't want to do it.
I've got a fight with my wife coming up.
Yeah, his wife's coming home in a little bit. So he's got a fight coming up.
Yeah, I've always got a fight around the corner.
Always around the corner.
She's tall too, 5'11". I got to work my way around that reach. Not only the verbal reach, but the physical reach.
Oh, the verbal reach is the worst, though.
Oh, I know, huh?
Yeah, they'll beat the hell out of you with them verbal jabs. You can't.
It gets you thousands of miles away.
Yeah.
But so, Lomachenko, Jeremiah, is he the best fighter in the world? Because you got people saying now, I think John Scully thinks he is, just from the post he made today. Can a fighter with just 10 fights be considered now the best fighter? Yeah,
absolutely he can. For me, it's not about the quantity of fights, it's about the quality of fights. And when you look at what he's done in the span of his career already, it's how many guys can you think of with a comparable resume at this juncture in their careers? Personally, I wouldn't go as far as saying Lomachenko is the best fighter in the world yet. Maybe in terms of all-around ability, that is you can make that case. But in terms of resume, I'm not ready to put him there. But yes, again, in terms of skill, he's already there in my opinion. He does everything really, really well. The only thing that he's lacking is at one-punch power. That's it.
All right, so same question to you, Brian. What's your thoughts on Lomachenko?
This guy is, I believe he's a two-time Olympian. Is that correct?
Yeah, wasn't his amateur record like 300 and something and one, Jeremiah?
It was 396 and one.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, when you get that many fights, you're already a pro coming into the game. Once you get like 100, 200 fights in amateurs, you're pretty much as good as a pro as right there. This guy's got 300 fights. So he's pretty developed. He's ready. He probably is the best fighter in the game right now. I would definitely say.
All right, so Jeremiah, where's Lomachenko go from there? Who's he fighting next? Does he go after Salido to avenge his loss?
Yeah, that's I think a natural pathway. I think Salido seems ready to do it. Salido's one of the few guys who doesn't seem to back down from a legitimate challenge. I think mentally Salido is there because he does hold a win over Lomachenko, and I just think it makes a lot of sense. That's an easy fight to put together. Salido is arguably the best 130-pound fighter in the world, though personally I think Lomachenko holds that distinction. But if you take a look at the resumes and whatnot, Salido's been fighting a lot of the top guys. Vargas I thought he beat, even though he had to settle for a disputed decision. He probably beat Roman Martinez in the second fight. Again, had to settle for a disputed decision. So I think that is a natural first step. If he could get Francisco Vargas, that would be another really good step. Personally, I'd like to see him move down to 126 and fight Rigondeaux, because in my opinion, that is the only person who could be competitive with him.
Well, and I think the problem there is Rigondeaux is just not very – the level of competition lately for him has not been there, plus he's not been fighting a lot.
No, plus his age. He's, 36, 37 at this juncture, and he's been kind of inconsistent with his views on a fight with Lomachenko, too. Like, sometimes he says, I'm 122, I'm not going to move from my weight class. And then he's like, okay, well, I'll take the fight. But in terms of talent, Rigondeaux is clearly, I think, still a pound-for-pound type fighter. And if any fight makes sense, I think that one does. I think Lomachenko is just too good for anybody at 130 right now. I think he's too good for anybody from 126 to 135. But Rigondeaux and maybe a good Yorkios Gamboa are the two most interesting fights.
All right, so I want to transition. We talked a little bit about Brian, NABF Cruiserweight champion at one point. Brian, what got you into boxing? As Jeremiah said, it's a really rough sport, not for everybody, but when did you first fall in love with the sport of boxing, and what drove you to become a boxer?
Well, I was always an athlete growing up. I played baseball, football, basketball. I played high school football and baseball, and a year of basketball in high school. But when I was about 16, I just walked into a gym. One of my friends at school was telling me he's been going there, and thought maybe I should come over, so I did. And the rest is history. And I walked in. I never knew I was in this. I just thought I was going to learn something. I just kept coming back, and I kept getting better.
All right.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeremiah.
No, I was going to say, so if you played football and you played baseball, was there kind of an easy transition into boxing? Because I've noticed, like I played baseball myself during the summer, and if you played, I don't know what you played in football, but if you played quarterback, like there's some similarities there in the way you use the torque in your hips to get, to release a ball. Did you find that?
For football, nah, it was a tough transition for me, to be honest. I mean, it wasn't, but the learning the fundamentals, wasn't that, really didn't come that easy for me. But, I wasn't a quarterback in football. I was a tight end and a defensive end. So, but basically, I noticed a lot of basketball players are able to make the transition a little bit easier for some reason.
Well, I think there may be the footwork.
Could be, yeah.
You got to block somebody out. You got to get your feet in the right spot, right situation. You turn pro, and, I mean, your ascent was pretty quick. I mean, you turned pro, and like 2 years later, you're fighting Art Jimmerson, winning the vacant NABF Cruiserweight title. He won it on a disqualification. What do you remember about that fight?
Well, that was a good night. That was my in 1994. I came out to Las Vegas, got a fight, had 16 fights in 11 months. I came right back that next year, and I think at 8 or 9. The next year, and that was the year I fought Jimerson. I remember I was nervous. It wasn't my first contender I fought, though. I fought one contender in Lake Tahoe in November, and this was like I think in June I fought Jimerson. So not I don't know, 8 months ago maybe I fought the first contender, and he ended up beating me on a decision. That was Preisser Saleta out of Poland. He was a top 10 contender.
Yeah, I was going to bring him up, but I didn't know how to pronounce his last name or his first name.
Yeah, I think his first name is Preisser, but his last name is Saleta.
Yeah.
He's a good fighter. He's, tough style. But yeah, he basically beat me in a decision. But yeah, when I fought Jimerson, I was on that night. And it's weird because I didn't feel good going into the fight. I trained okay. Could have trained a lot better. That was my problem sometimes. I didn't prepare as much as I could have. But I got in the ring and my adrenaline started going. I was going to win that night. There was nothing to stop me. And R was good. He was a good fighter. He was older. Yeah, I think my style gave him some problems, and he had he had a difficult time dealing with my style. But yeah, basically it was I remember that fight in the 11th round. He was so frustrated, he just started screaming for like a minute and a half, and he hit me low he must hit me low about 25 times. And Richard Steele, the referee, told him, the last time, if you do it again, you're done. And then he comes right back and does it again. And I never seen nothing like that. So I don't know if he was frustrated or whatever, what was going through his mind, but he just, I remember that fight, he kept hitting me low.
Yeah, so you ended up a few months later. You ended up defending against James Heath, the guy who was stripped of the title.
Right.
Do you remember much? Do you remember much about that fight? Were you a bit better prepared? Did your plan work out a little bit better?
Oh yeah, I was more prepared for that. I was sparring with John Ruiz in Boston. So I actually went to Boston to be a sparring partner with John Ruiz, and that got me ready for that fight pretty good. So I came back here, and the guy was Heath. Heath was kind of bitter. He thought they stole this title. I don't know if for some reason they stripped James of the title. Maybe for not defending it. I forgot why. And then me and Art fought for it. So he's basically saying I stole it. So we fought. And that was a good fight. I'll tell you what. That fight should have been on TV. That was a pretty good fight. It was 10 rounds. I stopped him in the 10th round. It was back and forth action. But yeah, I caught him with a double. I came out and threw a double jab right hand, and the right hand stunned him, and I was able to finish him off in the 10th round. And that was at that point that was my best win up to that point in my career, and that's what got me that title shot with Miller.
Yeah, and you talk about that. I mean, you're never one for inactivity. 2 months later, you get a shot at Nate Miller. I think that was nationally televised, wasn't it, in Miami, Florida? Wasn't it on Fox TV?
It was on Fox, yeah.
Yeah, was that undercard to a Tyson fight?
No, the main event was Oliver McCall. I think he fought James Stanton.
Yeah, okay.
I remember it was McCall.
Yeah, because I actually got the video of that fight. But I watched it the day before we did the interview. But what do you remember about that? I mean, you only had 2 months to prepare. You're fighting Nate Miller, who was a tough fighter, 27-4 Cruiserweight champion. What do you remember about that?
Well, here's the deal. I wasn't ready to fight a guy like Nate Miller. I didn't have a big amateur career. I had a decent amateur background. But and I turned pro, and it wasn't even 3 years later I'm fighting for the world title. Nate pretty much, I don't know, he was just, that night he had it. Mr. Miller was too much for me that night. Basically, he hit me in the first round, he dropped me. I think I was starstruck maybe. I got up, didn't know where I was, until like the 5th round. Finally, the 5th round, I snapped out of it, and I hit him a couple of times. Because for some reason, I was trying to box him too much. I was running. I said, this guy's walking right through me. I got to hit this guy to keep him on me. So, I threw a right hand. I hit him with another one. They just took it. Every time I hit a guy like that with the right hand, they pretty much dropped. And this guy just kept coming. Damn. But, I felt like later in that fight, he was tiring. Because it's weird. I asked my trainer, Roger Mayweather, in the corner, what round it was. And he said, you're going to the 9th round, or 8th round. And I said, okay, I got 4 more rounds. I'm going to pour it on. I'm going to put the pressure on. I wasn't tired. He was tiring. So I was going to go after him. So I came out, and he ended up headbutting me. I believe it. I don't believe it was intentional. They didn't rule it as intentional. But he headbutted me, cut my eye, got cut really bad, and the doctor stopped the fight. So that was that. Actually, I was sparring Nate about a year later, and I was able to handle him a lot better at that point. But he was still a good fighter.
Yeah, he was a damn good fight. I mean, a couple fights before you, he beat Orlin Norris to win the title in London, and then he defended it a couple more times after you before he lost it to Fabrice Tiozo. Jeremiah?
Oh, yeah, Tiozo. Matter of fact, I went over and sparred Tiozo in France, and I handled him easy. And it's weird. They brought me over there just to see what I was like. I sparred one time, and they sent me home. And I handled him easy. He handled Nate. It was a game of styles, I guess.
Yeah. And you talked a little bit about being trained by Roger Mayweather. I mean, what kind of trainer was Mayweather? What kind of relationship did you have with him?
Well, me and Roger had a good relationship. He's an excellent trainer. One thing about Roger is you'll be ready to fight. He prepares you pretty good. He's good at preparation. I've had some decent trainers, but he's probably, if I had to say one was the best, I won more fights with Roger. That's all the time I lost with Roger was against Nate Miller, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
All right, Jeremiah.
So who was your trainer for the Juan Carlo Gomez fights? I mean, I ended up watching that fight before we came on the air as well, and I noticed that you had I noticed you had a good strategy against Gomez, who was obviously, he was a very good fighter, had a long amateur background too, Cuban fighter. But I noticed in that fight, I assume this was your strategy for a lot of guys, but you jabbed every time he came in range. You tried to pop off the right hand when he came in range and moved around a little bit. You remember that fight? And, what'd you think of Gomez? What did you think of your performance?
Yeah, I shouldn't have took that fight. I had an advisor named Rick Laser told me, don't go over there. You're not going to win. And it was over in Europe. And, Bose Edwards went over there with me because Roger couldn't make it. Cornelius Bose Edwards was a very good trainer himself. He's from Europe because he's from a great fighter. Being from Europe is so we went over there. We made a strategy, but when I got over there, I fought twice over there, and every time I fight over there, I don't know if they put something in the water, but I got no energy whatsoever. When I trained over there with Tiazo, I didn't have that problem. But in the fights, maybe they're drugging you, but I couldn't get nothing off. I felt like I wanted to go to sleep when the fight started. So that's, that's the reality of this business. Is it can be nasty.
All right. So what have you been doing since you retired?
Since I retired, well, I was working in the hotel, the state line for a number of years, and as a valet parking attendant and a bell attendant. But I just left that job due to management change. So basically, right now I'm looking for another job at this time as we speak.
Yeah, well, that's not too easy to find nowadays.
I'll tell you, and I noticed that. Yeah. It's easier for me to get a job.
I mean, they say the job market's getting better, but it's all part-time jobs or fast food.
That's the problem, yeah.
But, hey, thanks for coming on the show tonight. It was really great to have you on. Anytime you want to come back on, feel more than free.
All right, thank you.
All right. You got any final words for the listeners?
Basically, I pretty much said it all. Pretty much covers everything I got. All right.
All right,
Have a good night, guys.
Take care of yourself.
Have a good one.
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks, Brian. All right, guys, that was former cruiserweight contender Brian LaSpada. Jeremiah, I know you had one cruiserweight fight you wanted to talk about before we got off air.
Yes, sir. I think it's a cracking fight, honestly. Denis Lebedev is going to be defending whatever trinket he owns against Murat Gassiev, and I think it's a really interesting fight. I mean, Lebedev, he's been around for a good number of years, and his only recent loss was to Guillermo Jones, who was a damn good fighter, but also got popped for PEDs in that fight. So Lebedev, since then, has been doing a really good job of defending his titles, just unified. And not only that, he's defending against Murat Gassiev, who is a product of Abel Sanchez's gym. So this is a guy who, is in the gym with Golovkin all the time, Denis Shafikov, a bunch of good Eastern European fighters, who are encouraging one another. This guy's always ripped too, but Gassiev he's a young guy. I think he's about 22, and he's ascended, through the ranks quickly. He's got a high work rate, good punching power. If you get the chance, look at his last fight. The left hook he lands on his opponent is utterly devastating. But I just like the fight. It's going to be in Moscow. Again, these are two top guys, and in my opinion, it's going to really show us what Gassiev has. Just an interesting fight. And I also think the fights on the undercard, two of the fights on the undercard are interesting as well. They have Rakhim Shakiev versus Maxim Vlasov, and that's a pretty good fight between two cruiserweights as well. But I think it's pretty good fight. I think a lot of people should be more excited about it, and I think if they're American, people would be.
Well, yeah, but anymore, most of the better fighters are in Europe or Asia.
I know. It's a bit unfortunate. Because I am a big proponent of the original 8 weight classes, and I think, the UFC recognized that. I think that's why they went with that format. That's why they only have the original 8. But in boxing, because the weight classes are a little bit different, I think the cruiserweight division would be a good addition because, the heavyweights have gotten so big anymore that, an in-between weight class, between light heavyweight and heavyweight, I think it's a necessity. So, again, a lot of these guys
a really good 200-pound heavyweight's going to have a hard time with a 6'6", 260-pound heavyweight.
Exactly. Guys like Anthony Joshua, both of the Klitschkos, Lennox Lewis. We've seen these big, highly prepared heavyweights dominating, shorter, chubbier, lesser prepared heavyweights. It's just, in my opinion, it's not the level of fairness it used to be. The
only time I've really seen that work out was when Rocky Balboa went in 1986 and beat Ivan Drago.
Yeah, that is so the case. Mike Tyson, did fairly well against a few bigger guys, but
he was 212, 215.
Right.
The bigger guys that could really fight, though, he didn't do so well with.
Right.
And really, the heavyweights weren't that big back then. You go in the 90s, who was really a giant heavyweight? The biggest was probably Lennox Lewis. Who was
Remember
4'6", 235.
Yeah. Correct. Even when and then you take it back to the 70s. George Foreman was considered a monster back in the day. And he was 225 in his prime or something like that.
6'3", 6'4". In his reincarnation, he was a big heavyweight, but that's why people always look at me when I'm nuts when I say Klitschko could probably beat Tyson because as soon as he gets close, Klitschko's just going to grab him.
Yeah, exactly. And Mike Tyson was as good as he was kind of a sucker for a clincher. You know what I mean? A guy
James Bone Clutcher Smith.
Exactly. Yeah,
the thing is this, the Klitschko is going to hit him once or twice before they clinch him. Because their reach is so long, they don't have to worry about getting hit from him then. They're going to hit him once or twice, and then they're going to suffocate him.
Exactly. So that's why, again, I'm a proponent for cruiserweight, and I think it's a really good division right now. It's just full of Europeans, and that's why hardly anybody pays attention. Yeah,
but the one good thing about it being full of Europeans is if you get to watch the fight, if they happen to show one somewhere, the crowd atmosphere is a hell of a lot better than it is in this country.
Oh, far better. Especially boxing in Russia has picked up quite a bit lately, and I've been following a sizable number of these Eastern European guys.
Yeah, and if you watch those fights, you don't see a bunch of empty seats like you do here. If you got to fight in England, Germany, hell, Denmark, it doesn't matter. The place is packed.
No, and I was actually talking to a British buddy of mine a while back about this, and part of the reason this is, and I think he was spot on, is that, boxing kind of teases out this inherent tribalism in all of us. And when you as a Brit, when you have another Brit, right, they view you as a Brit. In America, there's a lot of racial divisions and
black, white,
class
Jewish,
divisions.
Italian, yeah.
Right, exactly. The Latin guys have a tendency to stick with the other Latin guys. The blacks have a tendency to stick with the blacks. White. Again, it's this inherent tribalism, and I'm not saying anything for or against that, But when you have Europeans and you have like a guy like Mikkel Kessler, the Danish people can relate to him on virtually every level. When you have a British guy like Ricky Hatton, from Manchester, working class city, a lot of people can relate to him. So I think the same can be said of modern Russia in their current boxing landscape.
It's like when Ward fought Kovalev. I guarantee you there was probably more Americans cheering for Kovalev than Ward.
Oh, I almost guarantee it. I am in so many boxing groups and conversate with so many aficionados that I think that's undoubtedly true. There were tons and tons of people going for Kovalev over
Mayweather,
Ward.
Pacquiao. I guarantee you the majority of Americans weren't cheering for Mayweather.
Nope, you're
now,
spot on.
Now, with Mayweather, that's probably not color. That's probably just the fact he's kind of a douche sometimes. But still.
No, correct.
So is Pacquiao if you look at his personal life.
Right. No, absolutely. Pacquiao, for whether or not you disagree with some of his political beliefs. I don't agree with everybody all the time ever. But Pacquiao
you can't agree with everybody all the time.
No.
If you agreed with everybody all the time, life would be boring as hell.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, some of these, well, I don't want to get into the current political landscape, but Pacquiao has just lived a very interesting life, and he's a bit more humble and on and on and on. But yes, and that's what we're getting with modern Russia. You have Russians coming out for Russians, and because boxing has picked up in Europe, like you said before, we're getting a lot of this. The Brits coming out for the Brits, the Danes coming out for the Danes, and on and on and on.
Yeah, but if you bring a Ricky Hatton to America, you'd have half the place filled with people singing the Ricky Hatton song.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that firsthand.
And that does not happen for any American that I've seen.
No, none. Honestly, I've seen the Irish have more passion for a dart game than we've ever had for one of our own fighters. We're just not very passionate sports fans. The Europeans seem to have it right in that regard.
I think it used to be around here, but I think you don't hear crowds as loud as you did at football, baseball, or basketball games now as you used to.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is everybody's looking at their cell phone, or they've it's a disconnect. Anymore, you get the idea that younger people cheer more for players than they do teams. And with boxing, The problem is boxing has been off network TV basically since the mid to late 80s. And the disconnect there is, if I'm 12 years old, I can only see boxing if my parents are paying for HBO, Showtime, and pay-per-view boxing.
Yeah, not only that, I would add that, a lot of championship caliber fighters are not fighting very often. Where you have,
or
football.
Or they're playing another sport where they're making unreal money now.
Yeah, correct. When you have these, when football season is, when baseball season is, when basketball season is, and these people are playing.
And in 1970, Muhammad Ali was the highest paid athlete in the country.
Right.
Yeah. Probably the top 10 boxers were all paid higher than any football player was.
Yeah. Well,
and I still think it comes. The thing that got me was Mayweather-Pacquiao. All right, Mayweather-Pacquiao. All my son's friends wanted to come watch it. They all show up at 11 o'clock. Every kid on the street. They come in to watch the fight. And the fight was horrible. It was not a fight where guys went to be great. It was where they fought, maybe to win. And about 3 or 4 rounds into it, we get kids falling asleep. We get kids leaving. And everybody asks me why I watch this shit.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Kovalev-Ward, which is a fight with two great champions. I think there's no doubt after the fight that they're great champions. They're not jerks. They train hard. They do what they're supposed to do. But nobody outside of boxing fans, and let's face it, boxing fans anymore, the majority, are between the ages of 35 and 90.
Yeah, I would certainly say the hardcore fans. The younger fans, a lot of them seem to be casuals at best.
Yeah, and see, the problem is, if I'm a little kid. When I grew up, Rocky came out when I was like 7, 8 years old. That got me fired up for boxing. Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Marvin Hagler, and I got to watch them. And you got to watch them from the start of their career. You don't get to do that anymore. You pick them up, HBO will show them at their 8th or 9th fight. they'll all be fighting bums. I mean, if you look at the guys Sugar Ray Leonard fought when he was coming up, hell, the first guy he fought, was it Willie the Bull Rodriguez or something?
Mm-hmm.
Was a good fighter.
Right.
I mean, they didn't put him in against a bunch of bums. He made guys look like bums that were good fighters. Hell, Andy Price was a hell of a fighter. He knocked him out in one round with a punch. But the thing is, you got to see them build their career. Now you don't, and you got to be paying for stuff. I mean, let's face it, now you're not seeing near as much boxing on the regular TV because they're losing their ass on it.
Exactly. Well, and let's, venture a little further out. I mean, not only are those issues, but the politics. I mean, not long ago there was one weight champion per weight class, and when you had 8 weight divisions, it was a lot easier to follow 8 champions. Guys.
Yeah, but the thing about that is the 8 weight champions pretty much disappeared in the 50s, late 50s, early 60s, somewhere around there. So I mean, I didn't even see just 8 champions. But I think the biggest problem is this: it's not how many. If you had, how many weight classes are there now? Hell, I don't even know.
17.
12, 14, 17. If you had 17 weight classes and they all had one champion each, I think that would solve the problem.
I think that would certainly help, but I also think that it allows guys to kind of stay within these confines of an artificial weight class, for
even
safety.
at the artificial weight class, if there's only one champion, you got to do a little bit more to get a title shot.
No, I certainly believe that would help alleviate some of the issues that we have today. But I bring up this point about the 8 weight classes because, okay, so we see a guy like Ricardo Lopez, right? And he was really good at 105. And 105 was just a recently created division when he was around. And had that division not been created, he would have participated at 108. And when you look at the guys who are around in that weight class, you had Chiquito Gonzalez, you had Carbajal, just a few pounds north, you had Yuri Arbachikov and Mark Too Sharp Johnson. So imagining that you don't have 105 and 108, divisions that I think are unnecessary, you would have had all of these men competing against one another. Instead, now you are allowing guys, in my opinion, to stick within these confines, like an almost safe zone, right? So, we have Roman Gonzalez, a guy who has dared to be great. He's moved up constantly. He's fought the best of the best. And then you have a guy like Ricardo Lopez, who, as skilled as he was, and he certainly was, he was a fantastic fighter, he kind of stuck within the confines of 105 and didn't really fight any great fighters. And there was just a few pounds north.
Yeah, and did you happen to see, I watched finally this weekend because it was on my Amazon Prime, had to pay for it, but have you seen the Hands of Stone movie yet about Roberto Duran?
No, I haven't had the opportunity to get that. I mean, everybody that I know, it's had some pretty mixed reviews. I wasn't impressed. I was disappointed. Yeah, I mean, most of them have been negative, so I haven't gotten my way to watch it. But I also think this, it's kind of like making a movie about Muhammad Ali. There's not really a lot that you can tell me that I haven't already known or didn't already know. So like the Ali movie with Will Smith, I'm sure it's a good movie if you know nothing about Muhammad Ali. But what I'm just getting repeated to me, everything that I might have already known, not that big right,
deal.
Yeah.
Plus the guy didn't look like Roberto Duran to me.
No. And they had Usher playing Sugar Ray Leonard. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't had too much of an interest in it. I've got more interested in the Vinny Paz movie, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that pisses me off because the Vinny Paz movie, we had Vinny on to promote it, I think, back in March. Were you with me then, or was that Dave?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, we had him on to promote it. I wanted to see this movie. It's premiering on Friday and a week or so ago. Greendale Cinemas down here in Lawrenceburg, Greendale, Indiana, is not showing the movie, so I can't see it.
Where the hell you got to travel to?
I mean, so I figured we interviewed Vinny. Maybe I could get a copy from Vinny's people, and Vinny's people tell me, well, the movie company won't allow us to send out copies. So now I guess I got to wait till it comes on my pay-per-view or whatever the hell it is. But I really wanted to see that movie because I think it's a hell of a story.
Yep, me too. Yeah, that's one I'll eventually catch. I'll catch the No Moss movie too, or the Hands of Stone movie.
Yeah, and I can tell you this: I read the book Hands of Stone, and it was one of the best boxing books I've read. I
own it. I bought it a few months back, but I've got such a long queue of boxing books that I'm getting into that I'm not sure
I think it came out in like 2007 or 8, didn't it?
Yes.
Right around there, but I bought the hard copy then. It was like $25-$30, and I never paid that much for a book. But I loved Roberto Duran when I was younger. But the book was amazing. I mean, the book was one of those books where you start reading it, and before you know it, a day later, you're done because you can't stop reading it. Yeah, it's one of them books where you go to take a dump, and you take the book with you. You sit on the toilet, and you're taking a shit, and the next thing you know, it's a half hour later, and your wife's knocking on the door thinking you're beating off or something because you've been in the bathroom so long, and she's not going to believe you read a book.
No, little does she know, it's just you and Duran with your little intimate relationship on the Preisser.
This is me and Roberto Duran. I mean, it's just a book. It's nothing sordid.
Yeah, no, I've got that kind of relationship right now with Raging Bull, the book. A lot of people talk about the movie, but the book is fantastic. I mean, I
didn't like the movie that much.
Yeah, I think the movie's a little overrated. I mean, I watched it a few years back, thinking that it was just because I saw it a long time ago. You know, when I was I think in my early teens. You know, and I thought it was great then. Then I rewatched it with my wife a few years back. I was like, yeah, it's okay, but the book itself, the book is really, really good. Again, I'm 8 chapters in, and LaMotta's writing style is interesting. It's almost like you're inside of his head. It's not this, you know, this constant third person stuff. It's a really good book, and I look forward to finishing it.
Yeah, and the thing about that movie, it's hard to watch a movie where you actually hate the lead character, because he was an asshole in the movie. Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can tell from LaMotta's book that he was an asshole for a large part of his life.
Yeah, but some people think I'm an asshole, Jeremiah.
Some people think I'm an asshole too. Oh shit, my wife's coming.
I told you that the other day.
Oh, my wife's coming. Hold on.
Well, I'll tell you another boxing book that I really liked. The documentary sucked, but do you ever read Facing Ali?
No, unfortunately, I don't have any Ali books.
Yeah, the Facing Ali was good. I've never read any other Ali books except I did read The Fight by Norman Mailer when I was like 12 years old. I checked it out at a library about the Ali Frazier first fight, which was a good book. But the reason I don't read about Ali is because, I mean, hell, I've seen everything I think that could be seen about him. I don't think they're going to tell me a whole lot different. Mm-hmm. And let's face it, if he did something really bad, I don't think they're going to say anything about that.
No.
But all right, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up since we're probably boring everybody with book talk. Maybe we need to do a boxing book and movie review show.
Shit, yeah, I'm all for it. Yeah, I mean, let's make it happen.
All right, worst boxing movie you ever saw?
Worst boxing movie I have ever seen. It was There was a movie about a Native American guy and the country singer Tim McGraw is in it.
Oh, it was Kid something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it fucking sucked.
I didn't watch it because it looked stupid. But
yeah, well, I'm a sucker for anything boxing, so I usually have it.
It just looks stupid.
Yeah, it was.
I could give you a movie that is a lot worse than that, and it may be the worst movie ever made. You ever see Matilda, the boxing kangaroo?
Oh, geez. I remember you talking about this. What was this, months ago?
Did you ever watch the preview to Matilda, the boxing kangaroo movie?
Yeah, I did.
With Elliot Gould. Yeah, have you ever seen anything dumber than that?
Oh, man, I've seen some dumb shit in
my life. And I want
to
see it again. It was so stupid, but I can't find a copy. I think after they made the movie, they realized how fucking stupid it was, and they burnt every copy. I found a beta copy on eBay like 3 years ago, but they wanted like $85 for it. So I'm pretty sure it was the last remaining copy. I'm sure probably one of the producers bought the copy and burned it so nobody knew they'd make it.
He was like, yeah, I need to redo this. This is just too much.
But that was like one of the dumbest fucking movies ever made.
You ever seen the Boxer with Daniel Day-Lewis?
Yeah, but it wasn't really about boxing.
No, it wasn't much about boxing. I thought that was a pretty underrated flick about a boxer.
Yeah, but it wasn't about boxing. Yeah, but I want to see some boxing when I get a boxing movie.
Hey, there was a little bit in there. There wasn't much.
I know, but I was all excited because I thought the Boxer was supposed to be about Barry McGuigan.
Yeah, no.
Because that's what I heard, but maybe it was a different movie. But I never saw the Barry McGuigan movie because I don't think they made it, but I'm not sure.
No,
but I'd watch a movie about Barry McGuigan because it'd be a good story.
Oh yeah, yep. So long as they get everything right.
Yeah, but all right. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up for this week. We'll be back next week, and we got some good fights to preview next week, Jeremiah.
Yep, certainly excited about that. I'm excited every time there's a good weekend on. I mean, we haven't had many of them this year.
Yeah, we've had a few in a row. This one ended up being a dud, but it looked exciting going in.
Yeah. Well, it was a dud because Walters made it a dud, but Lomachenko's fantastic.
Yeah, Lomachenko's very good. But I think Roy Jones might think that Lomachenko's almost as good as him.
Well, I think so too. I mean,
and that's never happened, I don't think.
No, but I think Roy Jones has an affinity for Lomachenko, and that's because Lomachenko. If you've ever seen, there's actually a documentary on Lomachenko and him growing up and whatnot. It showed some of his, some footage from amateur days and whatnot. Lomachenko was a big Roy Jones Jr. fan, and he even said that he was his favorite fighter.
Yeah. Well, I used to like to cheer against him. That's just because he was so good, though.
Yeah, he was one of those guys.
He took so many ass whippings at the end of his career and still is that people kind of forget, overshadows what he did.
Oh, yeah. He was an absolutely incredible fighter. Very few fighters I've ever seen with his natural gifts.
Yeah, where I don't think nobody holds Holmes or Berbick against him. Nobody really holds Tyson against Holmes. But for some reason, I think it's just because Roy did it so damn long and everybody's watched him get his ass whipped for 10 years, and it kind of erases how great he was. Yeah, no, I think we're getting a little bit of that too. But you know what? For me, I'm judging the guy based on what he did in his prime, and he was, his innate ability was almost second to none. He was fantastic. Oh, he was great. I mean, hell, the only guy I really remember giving him much of a fight was Montel Griffith the first time. Yeah, I remember that fight too. He was crafty and gave Roy some. Yeah, but Roy was about to knock his ass out before he grabbed or dropped, dropped and rolled. Right. Yeah. I mean, Roy Jones was catching up to him. He started figuring him out, and we saw what happened in the rematch. Yeah, very quickly we saw what happened. Luckily, I didn't pay for that one. I was broke back then. Now I'm just almost broke, so I get to pay for it every once in a while. Scraping by. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, Jeremiah. We will be back next week with Inside Boxing Weekly. Make sure you check out thegruelingtruth.net. Follow us on Twitter at Grueling Truth. Head up to Facebook page, which, of course, is called The Grueling Truth. You can listen to shows on iHeart, Stitcher, Spreaker, iTunes, Google Music, anywhere you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Jeremiah Preisser, I am Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.